Well, just want to say hey to all my Facebook friends. Glad to have you on board. It's going to be great. Great night. Hey, listen, I just want to say a big shout out to all of you who are already out there, Trudy and Mildeer, and all of you out there. Glad to have you on board. Hey, it's going to be a great fun night as usual. And of course, it's all about spirit, soul, and body right here on the Carita Dee TV show. Hey, we're reaching so many countries around the world, 30 countries around the world. So I'm glad to know that all of you are on board. We're here at CaribVision. In Barbados, out of Barbados, but we're going into Trinidad and Antigua, St. Lucia, Grenada, Virgin Gorda, wherever you are around the Caribbean, the Netherlands, Antilles, all of you. Glad to have you on board. Looking forward to talking to you tonight. I'm just going to give you a little insight on what's happening tonight, though. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about feeling used. And I want you to just think for a second and share with me anything that you can remember, any situation you can remember where you did something for someone and, you felt used. And sometimes we as women do such good things for people. We just go out of our way to do good things for people, and they don't share it in return, or they just take it or run with it. And you're left thinking, oh my goodness, you should have given me a little thank you or something. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're getting ready to go live. I'm going to see you in a moment. All right.
The Lord has come to give you life more abundantly. He's come to heal your wounded soul and set your spirit free. Mother, sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get alive. Oh, girlfriend, get alive.
Well, welcome to the Carita Dee TV show. I'm Carita Dee. So glad to have you in the house with me. Of course, it's another great day that God has made, and we're going to have some joy up in the house tonight. As usual, we've got a great show for you. So I want to make sure that the girls and the guys are locked on so that we can really help each other to get to the next level. This show is all about empowering women to get back on track. But if we get the women back on track, we've got to know what the men have to do as well. And the men are watching so that they can learn some things about women. So I'm glad to see you guys on board. Hey, listen, in the meantime, I want to make sure that every last one of you knows the number that you've got to call me here at the studio. And so if you're in Barbados, you know what you're going to call. That number is 467-1046. And if you're in the Caribbean, it's a toll-free number, 855-213-7500. For all of you outside of the Caribbean and outside of Barbados, then you can just call us at our regular 246-467-1046, all right? I want to make sure that you're calling in and locked on. I want to say a big shout out to all my girls who are already on board tonight. Oh, my goodness. Nalini Chow, always glad to have you on board. Big shout out to you. Also, Mildeer, she's on board as well. I want to say a big shout out to Trudy King. Trudy King is locked in and locked on with me. Thank you for locking in and locking on, Trudy. You're always here every night. Glad to have my solid girls out there. And, of course, some of the guys that are on there as well, saying a big shout out to you. Just make sure that you say hi. And, of course, if you've got a chance, go ahead and call in. I know that you guys want to put some stuff on Facebook, but I really want to hear you so that we can talk some things out. Have you ever gotten to the point where you said to yourself, you know what, I've done so much for somebody? I mean, we're just going to talk about feeling used and abused tonight. You did above and beyond. You went, you did what they asked. You helped them. You mentored them. You might have given up finances for them, whatever you did. And at the end of it all it seemed was that you walked away feeling like the person used you, like it was just no big thing for them. They could just walk away, no biggie, and it left you feeling used and abused. Do you have a story like that tonight? Well, I want to hear your story. Give me a call. Make sure you call me. And if not, you can hit me up on Facebook. We're going to be talking about what to do when we feel used and abused. I mean, certainly God wants us to be used all the time. We want to be used. And sometimes here in our vernacular, in our Caribbean vernacular, we'll say, well, so use me, you know, and I'm sure they say that around the world too. But I would like to think there's a difference between God using me and somebody abusing me. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Want to say a big shout out to all the folks who are locked on. Eugene Linton. Hey, glad to know you're on board. Marcia Aline says hello. Hey, Marcia, always glad to have you, girlfriend. Jalea Bess, hey, doing a shout out. And all of the rest of you, keep sharing, keep sharing, keep sharing. Keep, telling me what your thoughts are. We're going to be talking about abuse tonight, what it feels like to be abused. Name some of the situations where we women feel abused. How can we be appreciated more? Maybe you want to be appreciated more, and there's certain things that you would like to be appreciated in. For example, if you do something for someone, do you require a thank you? Yes? Do you require someone to thank you? Or if you feel like, okay, I can do for somebody and they don't have to thank me, I just go ahead and do it. It depends how, on who it is. Or if it is that it's a situation where you did something or you helped someone, financial remuneration, do you feel like, okay, if you return something to someone that they lost, should they give you money in return? All of that we're talking about tonight on the Carita Dee TV show, simply because I think a lot of us are getting dissatisfied with how we've been treated. I've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of emails about people who say, well, so-and-so did this to me, and I feel really, really used. I know I've had that example. I'm going to be sharing my example with you tonight so that you can understand where I'm coming from. It's not like, just being real, that we won't do something for anybody. I think for the most part, we women are very, very transparent. We're very loving. We're very giving. But at the same time, we expect what we give off to come back to us. So if you give, and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give into your bosom, for with the same measure you give, shall be given to you again. Then if that's the case, then if I'm giving, then I expect it to come back. Isn't that right? Yeah. But I know that God brings it back. Yeah, God brings it back too. But there are certain natural elements that you want to see happening in our lives, so that we see that we're not just doing things for people, and people are not just taking us for granted. I mean, after all, we're flesh. You can pinch us and we hurt. So therefore, if you want something and you want to have someone give you something back, then it's imperative that we really talk about it, because sometimes people are clueless. Seriously. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Want to say a big shout out to all of you who are on board with me tonight, right here live on Facebook. I'm sure you saw that photo we put up there with me and my producer. She's right there online on Facebook as well. And so we got lots of people on board tonight. Let's see some of the folks that I can say a big shout out to. Let's see. We've got, wow. Hey, Moo. Yeah, glad to see you on. You are funny. Glad to see you. Trudy, always on board with us. Thank you. So we're going to be talking about how to be thankful tonight, how important it is to be thankful, because so many of us feel used and abused. Give me some of your used and abused stories. Maybe it is you did something for your husband. Or maybe it is you did something for a boyfriend, or you did something for a friend. Or maybe you lent something to a friend and they didn't pay you back, or whatever the case may be. Let's talk about it tonight so that we can get past all these hidden issues that we've been carrying for so long. Sometimes people can really tick us off, can't they? Yeah, absolutely. You may be very, very kind, but you might have laid down some boundaries for the person and they don't like it at all. And so that it comes back in the form of something crazy or, out of bounds, and you're thinking to yourself, what's going on? What is actually going on here? So we want to make sure that you're on board tonight. Send me your use and abuse stories, whatever it is that got you saying, oh, Carita, I feel like I've been pimped. I feel like somebody took advantage of me and I don't like it. I did something for someone and I feel so taken advantage of. I want to hear your stories. I'm going to share my stories tonight so that we can all be on the same accord and see if we can make each other feel better and really come to the next level of understanding where we need to go from there. How about that? So we're going to talk about that tonight, used and abused. Do you feel used and abused tonight? Do you feel like you want to get to the next level? Hey, then share your stories tonight. That's what it's all about. Hey, listen, I'm Carita Dee. We're going to be talking out for the rest of the night. Make sure that you're locked on. all my Facebook friends. I'm right here. So get your used and abused stories. I'm going to have them coming on right here with me. Indira, hi. Coming right back in just a moment. I'm Carita Dee. Coming right back.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
Festival again, festival again, festival again, festival again, festival again, festival again, festival again. The Caribbean's greatest summer line, yeah, it's country around my time. 44 is we here, I know you love it here. Troops and festivities, we love the Caribbean. The all night, no time for sleep, emancipate with we. Back food and folklore, culture around the 44. Back food and folklore, welcome to our island shore. Back food and folklore, entertainment to die for. Back food and folklore, culture around the 44.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Develop an emergency communications plan. Make sure all family members know what to do, especially children.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. Hey, listen, I want to say a big, big shout out to all the girls out there, all of you, wherever you are, across the Caribbean, and of course, right here with me, right on Facebook. I'm just glad to know that you're on board. Hey, I want to say a big shout out to Ann Niles, who just came on board live. Tonight, we're talking about being used and abused and feeling used and abused, and those are kind of the feelings that really get to us. I mean, kind of get our goat every time you feel used and abused. But it's one of the things that's probably one of the biggest areas that we have as far as loving each other, as far as misunderstandings, misconstruing, and whatnot. I remember, I got lots of used and abused stories, baby, lots and lots. I remember there were times in the past where I would think to myself, man, I can't believe that so-and-so said that, or I can't believe that someone did that after all I have done for them. Have you ever said that? Yeah. So if you've got a use and abuse story, just put it up on Facebook or make sure that you give me a call. You got the numbers right there on the bottom of the screen so that you can call me and we can talk about it. If you're calling from the Caribbean, it's a toll-free number. And if you're calling from Barbados, if you're calling outside of the Caribbean, of course, you can just call 246-467-1046. Call me with your use and abuse story. Now, I have had several of these. Believe me when I tell you, several. I've had stories where I've helped people and they just walked away. They never turned back and said, thank you, no thank you, nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. And I thought to myself, wow, this must be how God feels when he does so much for us and we just walk away and we never say thank you. I mean, seriously, because just so God feels we feel, right? So I was thinking to myself, wow, I have to be more cognizant about how I treat people as far as that is concerned, because I remember being in a very close relationship with someone, and the person, we had a misunderstanding, what I call a misunderstanding. I might have said something and it hurt them. They might have said something and it bothered me, whatever the case may be. But it was a relationship that we had had for a few years. And we had grown to be very deep friends, deeply committed to our relationship. We really felt it was a God-ordained relationship, and we were truly, truly committed to each other. When this thing happened, I remember being under a lot of pressure. I was going through a conference. Different things were happening. And the person became very, very... just really upset with me, okay? And I remember going back to the person and saying, look, if I've done anything to offend you, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to. This is what was happening. That was what was happening. Fine. That wasn't enough. The person kept going over and over and over, and they kept talking about it over and over. So I said, okay, so we decided to meet, okay? So I went up by their house. We sat down. We talked it out. Okay, I thought that it was over. Oh, doggone it. Here it was again. Next time I was talking to them, they brought it up again, up again, up again, up again. I was like, okay, when are you going to get over this? When are you going to get over it? Is it not enough that I said thank you? I said thank you. I said thank you. 50 different ways I said thank you, and it was never enough. Do you have a story like that? Maybe you've done something for someone, and it's like, thank you was just never enough. I don't know if it was that you wanted my pound of flesh, but that was how I felt. Like, okay, what else do I have to give this person other than a thank you? And maybe you've been in that kind of situation yourself where you felt like you were totally, totally dissed by somebody who probably should have said thank you to you. If you want to share your story, make sure you share it with me. You can always share it with me on Facebook. And, of course, Indira, I know you've got a story. Marcia, I know you got a story. And Jalea, I know definitely you got a story. So tell me, what are your stories about feeling used and abused? What was the last experience that you had where you felt like I did so much for the person and the person didn't express their thank you to me? You can give us a call. You know the numbers. 467-1046 is the Barbados number. And, of course, the 855 number at the bottom of the screen is the toll-free number for those of you in the Caribbean. Now, when it comes to feeling used and abused, because I've written a book on this, being used and abused, when it comes to feeling used and abused, there's so many things that can trigger it. In other words, if it was that you got up in, you came up in an environment where it was very abusive, where it may be, and when I say abusive, it could be that your father never told your mother thank you. You never saw your father say, well, thank you, darling, for all that you're doing, or, oh, honey, that was a good meal, or, whatever, because sometimes people say today, wow, those days are gone, right? How many people actually sit down and eat together anymore? But yeah, those are the kind of things that back in the day, people would say, thank you. Oh, man, look at how mom put out this meal, man. Kids, did you say thank you to mom? Or, whatever, or dad went out to cut the grass or whatever, and somebody said, oh, the grass looks nice, dad, thanks, or whatever the case may be. And I find that now what is happening is that people don't say thank you enough. And so as a consequence, more and more people are getting more and more frustrated, because I'm finding more and more angry people. Angry, I mean, just seriously angry. Angry to the point where they're explosive. Angry to the point where they just don't want to talk to you. Angry to the point where they walk away and never look back. Those are the kind of situations that we're facing now. And I'm hearing more and more women, as I talk to more and more women about my story, they share their stories. I was amazed just the other day. I was sharing a very intimate moment of something that was happening in my life with a girlfriend of mine. And lo and behold, she was saying that's the exact same thing that happened to me. And I was like, whoa, get out. She said, exact same thing. So I realized from that there's obviously something very, very negative happening in our society today, that we got to take some time and work it out. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to work it out. So share your story with me. Go ahead and share your story with me right now. Something that made you feel used and abused. You got 30 seconds from right now to get it written down. Just something where you can say real short, I gave something to someone and they didn't help me, or they didn't thank me, or whatever the case may be. Make it short and sweet, and let's discuss it right here on the Carita Dee TV show. Want to be a part of what God is doing in your life to get you to the next level. Because I don't think that a lot of us have gotten over situations like this, and we carry them for the rest of our lives. Sometimes you just got to say, well, that section is over. That part is over. Well, I'll tell you, this part is getting ready to be over. I'm getting ready to come back and talk to you more. And in the meantime, you share your points with me. I'm Carita Dee. Love you. Coming right back right after this.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
In Northern California, neighbors report a dog is trapped in a nearby concrete wash. The animal appears calm, but is unable to find a way out.
Somehow she got into the canal. They get into the canals. The canals are lined with algae.
And now will they be able to coordinate their efforts?
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Avoid sightseeing.
And they really don't know, because they never really got. And another thing that we don't get into enough, Brady, is help a young man understand what it means to be a man.
That's right. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's one thing that when you were talking about video games and movies in particular, is oftentimes you just see sort of one type of man in movies. And I think it's important, as you said, whether, you know, boys growing up need someone to confide in, whether that's talk about.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Keep phone lines free for important calls.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. And of course, you know what it is. It's all about being used and abused. Got a couple of girlfriends. We had all gotten together. We were sitting there chatting with each other and saying, what are some of the signs that you're actually being used, especially in a relationship? And when I talk about a relationship, I'm talking about a male-female relationship. And one of the girls, as we were talking about it, said that she had a boyfriend that only used to call her for a date last minute. In other words, he'd never plan anything out in advance. He would always call her like, okay, the show is tonight. I'm calling you at 2 o'clock to see if you're available at 4 or 5. You know, and she thought, well, you know, he likes me and he's a busy man and things like that. And he wouldn't give her much notice. And if she didn't hurry, sometimes he'd find an excuse and change his mind about going out altogether. So you might not realize it, but if you're never the first person on the list when it comes to making plans, then it's probably because you're being used. Huh? Okay, so go ahead and give me a call and tell me your story. I've got somebody else who said, Carita, they want, sometimes people want intimacy with you, but they don't want an exclusive commitment, and they find many excuses why they feel that way. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's true. That's being used and abused. What are some of the excuses, though? Because you didn't really, highlight what are some of the excuses that they would find. They would feel that way. This person sent that to me on a private message. And they said they want intimacy with you, but with no exclusive commitment. And it means they find many excuses why they feel that way. Now, how can someone, okay, when you're saying intimacy, I assume that that's sexual intimacy. How can someone want sexual intimacy with you without an exclusive commitment? First of all, they shouldn't want sexual intimacy with you without marriage. That's okay, because that's the way God ordained it. But even with that, certainly you still, even in the bonds of marriage, there's still an exclusive commitment correct? Because people cheat, you know. They have an exclusive commitment, but they cheat. So hopefully they want the intimacy and they want the exclusive commitment at the same time. So I want to get a feel some more about that. Thank you, girl. Also, someone else sent me and said they ask you to do favors for them all the time, but they never do favors for you. And when you ask them in return, it's a very one-sided favor type of deal. They don't give back the love. Wow, that is so true. You'll find some people who do say, oh, girl, can you do such and such for me? Or can you run to the store for me? Or can you do that for me? Can you do that for me? And when it's time for you to say, well, can you do this for me? They find every reason in the book not to do anything for you. That's when you know right away, boom, it's a one-sided thing, and you're being used or abused. And another thing is, I can remember clearly and distinctly. This is just me talking, just real straight talk now. I remember doing something very significant for someone, very, very significant. I mean, super. I can't even say what it is, but it was a huge deal, seriously. And when I did it for them. I mean, something huge, you know. When I did it, the person looked at me and said that someone else had done it for them. And I thought to myself, you got to be crazy, right? You just trying to mess with me, right? I was like, I went through all this time to do all this. I ran up and down every day. I went to all the meetings. I went to all this. I got, you know, paperwork, this, that. And because one other person had done one thing in this whole thing, and I had done everything else, they turned and gave this person all the credit. And I was like totally dumbfounded. I mean, I was seriously, I just sat there like, this can't be happening. Is this for real? This person actually thinks that person did it all. But sometimes what happens with people is they don't want to give you any credit. Somehow they have issues with you, hidden issues with you, and they never want to give you any credit. Because somehow they feel that, you know, you get people saying, oh, well, you know, I hope this is not going to take away your humility. No, gratitude doesn't take away humility. Saying thank you to me doesn't take away my humility. Saying thankful to me makes me feel appreciated, right? So in this case, what the person wanted to do was, I think they just want to get under my skin. It's because really and truly, they may not want you to do it, or they didn't want me to do it, but I was the only person that could do it, okay? And so ultimately, to get under my skin, what they said was, oh, well, I'm going to give appreciation to this person over here who put one little, who made one little impact on it. And I thought to myself, wow, there goes a truly ungrateful person. Because I'm one of those people that believe in street loyalty. I believe that if you're doing something for someone should be appreciative of it. And I make it, I try to make myself say thank you for anything that somebody does for me. And I find it very insulting, actually, and degrading. And when someone would see that you've done something for them and then walk away trying to give credit to someone else. And so we find that a lot on jobs, don't we? So I want to say a big, big shout out to my girls. Just go ahead and put your comments up here. Want to see some of the comments. Hey, Tyler Bell says, hey, Carita. She says, really looking forward to tonight's show. My question is, what is being used meant to feel like? I'm a man who loves to help others when they ask or are in need, but I've been told that I tend to overstep my boundaries and do too much in this way. And then he says, in this way, my other friends believe I'm being used both financially and otherwise. These persons I help, I can confirm are dear friends I've had for years, and we care for each other. Anytime I help them, even though they can't repay me financially, they have always been there for me emotionally and motivationally support and enrich my life. Am I being used for not expecting material returns on material favors I do, and truly valuing the support my friends provide wherever they can? Good question, Tyler. Awesome, awesome question. Tyler, there's so many people who help each other financially. It sounds to me like you're a really, really sound human being. just by what you've written there, because you get people who are not sound. They talk a lot, but they're not sound. And you sound to be a really sound person, because you say these persons you help are dear friends that you've had for years. You care for each other. And anytime you help them, even though they can't repay financially, they've always been there to support you emotionally and motivate you, etc. So you take back what you've given in money in kind, kind of like a barter system. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I may be able to be the one that can bless you financially, but these guys don't just say, well, forget that. It's going to be all right. They bless you in return. So, Tyler, we're going to come back in just a moment and talk about that some more, and talk to some of my other girlfriends as well, Marcia and all the other girls. Coming right back in just a moment. Got a juicy one for you.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
3-day event down here at the Hammock and Palm Course, Florida. Covers a lot of volleyball. So let's see how our volleyball players are doing and head on over to the action. Stay tuned.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Keep phone lines free for important calls.
Well, the new thing from the left this week is head-scratching, to say the least. Get ready for UBI, or Universal Basic Income. Stockton, California announced they're going to begin giving $500 per month to certain residents, no questions asked, to, as the sales pitch described it, create an income floor that no one will fall beneath. $500 a month. This brainstorm comes from a city once known as the foreclosure capital of America.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. Glad to have you back on board. Hey, listen, we've been having a great time here simply because some of us have been having an issue with feeling used and abused, and I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing when you feel that way, because you obviously want to be appreciated. And so we're talking to some of the girlfriends and the guy friends too. For all of you out there, just make sure you log on to us live on Facebook, or of course you're on CaribVision throughout the entire Caribbean and the world. We just got a letter from Tyler Bell, who's right here on Facebook with us. And Tyler was saying, hey, you know what? I'm a man who loves to help others, really love men helping others. And he says when they ask or in need, but he tends to overstep. He says he's been told, I tend to overstep my boundaries and do too much. Now, how do you, I'm not quite sure in that way, how do you do too much, Tyler? If somebody tells you, well, you've overstepped your boundaries and you've done too much. So I want to find out from you, maybe you can expound on that a little bit. What are one of the ways that you've done too much? Maybe you've just gone for too long, or given too much financially, or how does that work? Okay, so we want to find out more from that. Tyler's going to tell me that in a moment. Just want to say hey to Jalea. Jalea Best says, I've had a few females befriend me or be nice to me just to get a chance at my close male friends. Oh yeah, that's being used though, right? No, seriously, if you have been one of those people that you just mosey on up to somebody because they got some cute male friends, I got a word for you, but I can't say it on TV. Seriously, no, man. If she's got some male friends, you can't do that. That's not even cool. As a matter of fact, if I was friends with Jalea, let me just put it in real talk. If I was friends with Jalea, and I saw that she had some, cute friends, and I was single, and she saw that she had some cute friends or whatever, I guess if I had a relationship with Jalea, that would be all right, because I could say, well, Jalea, you know what, I'm really feeling, John, or I'm really feeling, Harry, or whatever the case may be. and she would be cool introducing us. However, if I'm not friends with Jalea, and then all of a sudden, I'm just like, hey, all of a sudden you see Jalea with one of these young guys who's, gorgeous. And you say, hey, Jalea, hey, girl, how you doing? Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. And all the time I'm looking at the guy. And Jalea's over here. And I'm looking at it. Hey, Jalea. Yeah, that's not too cool. That is not cool at all. All right, so Jalea, if you've got those friends who just befriend you or be nice to you just because they've got, some eyes on these guys that you're hanging out with, baby, they ain't no friends. Just, hot potato, drop it like it's a hot potato. They are not friends. And, there's nothing wrong with telling them, girl, listen, the only time I see you come around is when you want to talk about so-and-so. And so you're not really here for me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying that to them, You just straight up be transparent enough to tell them the truth. Hey, I want to say good night to Jeanette. Jeanette says, this is a great question. I honestly don't know simply because I enjoy giving, so maybe I won't have a clue if I'm being used, and that's the truth. High five for you, girlfriend. Sometimes we really don't know if we're being used, but sometimes we do. There's this little trigger that goes off in our gut that says, da-da-da-da-da-da, I don't feel good. No, seriously, you just don't feel good when you're being used. You want to feel better. You want to get to the opportunity where you're saying, okay, this is a reciprocal relationship. It could never be used if I'm meeting your needs and you're meeting mine. In other words, it doesn't mean that for everything I do, you do something back immediately. Sometimes that's a little too cliche. What you want to do is have a natural flow. My girlfriends and I, my inner circle, we just have a natural flow. If my girl needs me, boom, I'm there. If I need her, boom, I'm there. If she needs to talk to me for a period of time, she's going through something, I'm there. I try to make the time and I'm there. It may mean I may have to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning. I may have to stay up till 2 in the morning and see her through that situation. But we're ace boon cool now. We all that in a bag of chips. So we hang in there for each other. And likewise, if I'm going through something and I need her, boom, they're there. There are times that Mel, my best friend Mel, and I have another very, very close friend, Deb as well, who, if we're going through something, I may not talk to them. Well, Deb I talk to every day. Mel I talk to almost every day. And if we're going through something or I'm going through something, they up the game. In other words, they check in on me all the time, just to make sure that I'm doing all right through this crisis or through what I'm going through. However, I may not be doing the same thing for them. I'm in the point of receiving it, okay? Freely he gives, freely we receive. So at some point, God is using somebody to just deposit something in your life at that moment. And all you got to do, baby, is say thank you. That's it. Just say thank you. I mean, thanks, girls. Every so often I'll just say, girl, you all that. I couldn't have done this without you. I just got to say thank you. They're not expecting me to give, like Tyler was mentioning, maybe give something back, in return. They're not expecting that. They just, even though they're even not expecting the thank you, I still go ahead and say thank you just to give appreciation. You know what I'm saying? Tyler says, hi, Carita. The overstepping tends to come with regards to money. That's what he clarifies. He says, there are also cases of giving friends a ride, as I'm the only person with steady access to a vehicle. He says, maybe I'm just too nice. He says, the overstepping tends to come with regards to money. I have friends sometimes who have issues with food, or it may be a much more frivolous favor, such as a top-up, or I've been told things which do not concern me. That's interesting. Things which do not concern you. So what you're telling me, Tyler, is that you overstep your bounds by giving people food when they don't ask, or topping up their stuff when they don't ask, or doing things that don't concern you. Well, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but if it is what I think you're saying, then yes, because especially if it's a woman, Tyler, let's be real. If it is that you like this girl or whatever, but she really ain't digging you no kind of way, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you know what, I really like this girl and I want to hang with her, but so I can top up her phone and I can do this. No, don't do it. Don't bother. Don't do it, because if she's not showing you some kind of appreciation, then you are going to feel used and abused after a while. So be careful of going out of your way. If she said, well, I really need some help with topping up my phone, and you want to do that, well, that's fine on you. That's up to you. But if you're just going out of your way and you're doing it without anybody asking, I don't know. I'm not feeling that quite yet, because it's not like you're telling me you're topping up your children's phone or, you know, whatever, your spouse or whatever. It's just total strangers. I'm not quite feeling that, okay? Jeanette, hey, just want to say a big shout out to you. And Patricia Evanson says, in the place and locked on. Glad to have you in the place and locked on. I know for me personally, I've had several instances where people have done stuff like this. It's just been horrendous when they've been saying things and not saying thank you. Can you just say thank you? Can we just take it a moment and say thank you? If somebody opens the door, say thank you. All I'm going to say tonight is thank you. Coming right back.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Check into your home and auto insurance. Confirm that the policies are valid and the coverage is appropriate.
Hey, and welcome to Kai Music Video Countdown with artists from the Bahamas. The Caribbean.
Jehovah, shield me from the evil way you bring me. Jehovah, guide me, and just protect me from my enemies.
Africa.
On every play, my God, on every play. On every play, my God, on every play.
Even if you no get it, never forget to say bye, thank you. Oluwa na go do.
America.
Father, we want more of you, and for your spirit.
Artist Hot 10 Countdown with me, your host, Landlord. You can also participate in the show by sending your views, your comments to landlordforrent@hotmail.com. And also remember, we play only positive gospel music that has already made the headlines.
And for your spirit. Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life. Oh, girlfriend, get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you in the house. And we're talking about feeling used and abused. And so many of us are angry today, want to get past this anger situation, because even in the Bible, it says, be angry and sin not. We don't want to be angry to the point where we're going so far left that we're right. You know, we've got this volatile, explosive society that so many people are feeling used and abused, and they don't understand why they feel that way. And it's because consistently making bad decisions will make you feel used and abused as well. What we want to do now is make right decisions. And one of the right decisions that we want to make is just to say thank you and acknowledge people. I think sometimes people have a hard time acknowledging people who help them simply because they've got some issues. Sometimes you find people just have some issues and they don't know how to say thank you. Well, you know what? You got to leave them up to God and just keep it rolling. On the other hand, there are some people that they may have forgotten or it just didn't cross their mind. We want to help them as well tonight. Hey, listen, if you're right here with me, I'm Carita Dee. This is the Carita Dee TV show. And you've got a number right there on the screen. You can just call the number and share your story with me. I've got somebody who says, Carita, I had a really hard time in my relationship because I found out that my person, I wouldn't say his name, never liked to please me. They were very selfish. It says they acted as if they didn't know how to please me. It seemed like they were incapable of pleasing me, and they never did anything romantic with me. They never planned things in advance. They never surprised me in any way, and it really was very frustrating. Well, I'm sorry that you were so frustrated, because from time to time you do meet people like that, and if you have situations where, obviously, if you're dating someone, obviously, and they're not planning something for you, they don't take the initiative, it's like they take you for granted, they just leave you there. That's a big, big sign saying, hey, baby, you know what? I'm just not that into you. I'm just not that into you. Plain and simple, he's just not that into you. I find it hard sometimes as women, you know, we women find a hard time to just say, hey, he's just not that into me. And when you find it, when you find out that he's not into you, you just got to make the decision to step away. You know, this is not like a marriage where you have a commitment before God on a three-way cord tied with the Holy Spirit. You're talking about a dating relationship. And if in a dating relationship he's not that into you, then baby, he's just not that into you. So what you going to do about it now? You know, you just got to step away. In the case of a marriage now, and he suddenly is not that into you, well, you got a couple of things you can do. One, you can pray and go back into the three-way cord with the Holy Spirit, get the Holy Spirit back involved, and talk to the Holy Spirit about the way that the other part of the three-way cord has been dealing with you, and that's very, very effective. I've seen that happen many, many times, where the Holy Spirit, God Almighty himself, can do what needs to be done with the other person. And secondly, not only is it effective for the other person, but it's great for inner peace. I myself have experienced that from time to time, where I had to pray for my husband, and while he was out there doing whatever he wanted to do, I just had to sit there and just say, you know what, God, I'm okay with me. I'm just going to sit here and let you minister to him. And so it's important that we don't just get stuck in these kind of situations. We know that we have somewhere that we can go to, whether if it's a boyfriend, well, baby, if he's showing that he's not that into you, then you need to keep it rolling. So that's all I got to say on that. Somebody says, hey, sometimes we'll go on trips, and me and my boyfriend, they never call, or he goes on trips, and they never call back from their trip. And I feel that they're using me because I see them texting other people, but they never pick up the phone and call me. Once again, baby, clear, clear, clear. Can I say this again to anybody who wants to listen? If you got a boyfriend and he is texting everybody else but you, he goes on vacation and he ain't call you, he ain't texting you, he's just not that into you. Baby, you all that and a bag of chips. Do not sell yourself short. You are all that. Nobody is discrediting you. It's just that the issue is with him. Whatever he's feeling is on him. But you have to keep your own self-esteem up. You got to know that you are all that. You were created mightily. So you don't have to worry. That's his issue. You don't have to now suddenly flip, dip, whip the script, you know, do what you got to do to try to get. No. I think one of the greatest problems that we have as women is that we try to conform like a chameleon to every man that comes along. That too tiring. I did that. Too tiring. If you cannot love me, accept me for who I am and all that I'm bringing into the relationship, then it's not on me. It's on you. So you go and find what you want. But so in your case, it's like if he can't find what is in you, what is good in you, all the good that you've done, all the many things that you've done, the ways that you cared, all of that, if they can't find that, and that's not enough, then go and get what you need. But you don't have to feel bad about it, boo. You all that in a bag of chips. Okay? Good. So here's another one from somebody who says, Carita, sometimes people, once again, we're going back to this male-female, so it seems like that's a predominant issue that's happening with the relationships. Says they don't want exclusivity with you and want to keep their options open to dating others. Baby, if a man says he wants to keep his options open to dating others, you are not the one. And you got to just own up to the fact that you are not the one. Want to keep as soon as he wants to keep his options to dating, you are not the one. Go find the one. But you just not the one, because if you're the one, he'll want to be around you all the time, 24/7. You just not the one. And so you own up to it. Okay, well, you know, I'm not the one. Plain and simple. Okay, good. So we've got another one. Oh, my goodness. The girls are keeping it coming. Love you. Bad, bad, bad. Another girl says, hey, sometimes my boyfriend says a lot of things like, I'll make it up to you, I promise. And then he says, you're amazing. No one has your heart. Or things like, you're the most loving, giving person. No one else has been this way to me. And he says many statements that show much praise for me, but it's one thing for them to be appreciative of the things that you do, but it's another thing when those things never get reciprocated, and they're always the ones praising, never giving you a chance to praise them. So you're talking about it like a little flip thing. You're saying that they'll say things like, you're amazing, no one has your heart, or things like that, and you think it's like too much, and you don't say it back. Is that what you're saying? Because I'm not quite getting it. You're saying that this person is saying some amazing things to you, but you're not. They're complaining that they're not getting it from you. So maybe it's time that you reciprocated and you said, hey, thank you, and praise them too. Hey, listen, we're talking about being used in the booze tonight. Put your story right there on Facebook or give me a call. I'm going to come back in just a moment.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
A robot dance is an unusual element for the Tobago Heritage Festival, but this feature in the 2018 opening production helps to shape the story of 4 teenagers caught up with technology. On their journey to find the sibling of one of the teens, they each experience different areas of the island's cultural traditions.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Develop an emergency communications plan. Make sure all family members know what to do, especially children.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. So glad to have you back in the house. And of course, I want to say big ups, big ups, big ups. Lowena Williams, she says, I sometimes feel unappreciative because as an esthetician and a wife and mother that works from home, she feels unappreciative. And I can get that. I get that. Because you find a lot of people discredit homemakers, you know, which is, to me, the most valuable job in the entire world. And here you are, a mother, you're working from home, you're still trying to bring in your income, you're still doing what you got to do, you're an esthetician, and you feel unappreciative. Oh, man, that's not good. You want to feel appreciated because you're doing the bulk of the work. I mean, let's face it, you're at home, right? You're not out there, but you found a way to make money. You found a way to still handle the wifely duties and the mother duties, and all of that, and you're feeling unappreciated. Maybe what you should do is take some time, Lowena, and just talk to the fam, get them together, and say, hey, listen, got to take care of mom for a minute. Mom is feeling dried out. You know, we got to spend some time with mom. Somebody do something nice for mom. Or tell your husband, you know, somebody's got to do something nice for mom because I'm feeling a little dried up. Can't go on like this. And see if they will respond that way. If they don't respond, you know, just pull back for a moment. Sometimes people need to see it to understand it. And if you pull back for a moment, you see, where is mom? I thought mom was here to do this. And where's mom? Mom was here. It's dinner time. And where's mom? Yep. Then they start to wonder. And you can make your point then. And maybe they'll understand at that moment, okay, we need to take care of mom every so often. Mothers are the most neglected in the entire world. And I really do believe that motherhood is there's such a high demand on motherhood that that's the one area, the one profession in the entire world that we need to take more care of. So to all the mothers, big ups to all of you. You're doing a great job. I want to continue to encourage you to do it, okay? Take some time for you sometimes, though. You need it. All right, so that's coming from Lowena. And Tyler Bell comes back on and says, I hardly ever do favors unless someone expressly asks. Well, that's good. Okay, that's good. I mean, not to say that you can't do favors for people who don't ask, but you wouldn't be expecting something in return. I mean, you know, if I just did something arbitrarily for someone outside there or outside here, I'm not expecting anything in return. However, there are some situations where you're you're constantly doing something for someone, and you expect, yes, I say expect, you expect someone to say thank you at some point. The reason why I say that is because even God says, enter his gates with thanksgiving, right? Enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise. So we enter into the presence of God, thanking him and praising him. So why not emulate that on earth? Just as it is in heaven, so it is on earth. So why not emulate that? Why don't we, if we enter God's gates with thanksgiving and praise, why don't we enter into other people thanking them? Hey, just want to say thank you for what you did the other day, man. Just calling you to say X, Y, Z. Just calling you to tell you this. Just calling to tell you that. I got the job. I got this. I got that. You went out of your way. You did that for me, man. I really appreciate it. But not to just like, okay, go ahead, get the job, and 6 weeks later, somebody calling you say, well, man, what happened? I ain't seen you. What's going on? Oh, I got the job. I meant to call you. Not cool. Not cool at all. So keep those comments coming. Hey, listen, there's some things that we really have to identify as far as things that, ways that will show us that we're abused. One thing is that we have to, if 11 signs, basically, one of the things is people make you afraid to say no. That is a clear sign that someone is abusing you. If they make you afraid to say no, well, in other words, somebody asks you something and you say, well, no, I can't do it this time. That's not cool. And you feel like, I can't say no, I can't say no. Not a cool relationship, not working at all. How about sometimes people come to be nice to you when it's convenient? Otherwise, they're not nice to you at all. I know people that I've worked with that they weren't talking to me, but all of a sudden they come up and talk to me one day, and it's like, what's this all about? And I'm like, what's wrong? And then they say, oh, well, it's because they need you. It's convenient. They need something from you. All right. How about people who only call you at night? You ever had a boyfriend that only call you at night? He don't call you during the day. He's only call you late at night. If he's the late night stalker, don't entertain it. How about people who are all about the favors? They'll paint themselves as the most helpful person on the planet, but sometimes they're only doing it to benefit themselves. So we want to be careful that when it comes time for them to ask a favor, they'll bring up all they did for you. Oh, by the way, I remember when I did this. I remember when I did that. Well, could you do this? It's like, okay, why don't you just ask me? So we want to make sure that you're being very careful where people like that are concerned. Hey, listen, we're going to continue this tonight. Great that you're putting your comments on there. I'm going to come back and share with you some of the other ways that we can see how we're being used and abused.
Sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend get a life, oh, girlfriend get a life.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Check into your home and auto insurance. Confirm that the policies are valid and the coverage is appropriate.
Well, you're back with me, Carita Dee. It has absolutely astounded me on so many occasions when people have come to me and shared how they feel so disappointed, let down, betrayed, neglected, rejected, refused by so many people, simply because the expectations that they had of someone doing something in return were never fulfilled. All I can tell you is, baby, welcome to the real world. In that case, and on that note, however, we want to make sure that we are telling you about some of the ways that you can circumvent and get around some of these other situations. Certainly one of the things that you want to do is have maybe just lower your expectation a little bit. In other words, never expect more from other people than you can give yourself. Sometimes people will let us down. That's just the bottom line. They will just let us down. We have to make some guidelines, yes, but at the same time, we always have to have a little flexibility. If somebody doesn't say thank you, then something may be going on with their life, something may be happening in their home, something may be happening with their emotions, something may be happening with their finances, that they are so frustrated, so uptight, they didn't just get a chance to say thank you. And so even though you may say something like, well, hey, you didn't tell me thank you for that, and remind them, and then they still don't say thank you, well, then obviously they're really, really having a rough time, or they're just downright selfish, plain and simple. I've had the opportunity where someone had done that to me, and I said, hey, well, why wouldn't you want to thank me for that? And the person just looked at me. I mean, seriously gave me a dead stare. Like, well, who are you to tell me to thank you, And I thought to myself, but you're thanking everybody else, and you're ignoring me, and I kind of feel hurt by that, and yet the person still continued to do that, and they gave all these kudos to everyone else except me. And it really did hurt initially. But then afterwards, I got a divine revelation on it from God. And what the divine revelation is that you cannot control someone's issues. You cannot take them out for their issues. They just have issues. And so if you recognize that, it exonerates yourself. You can just say, you know what, I'm still all that in a bag of chips. I'm still good. I'm a kind human being. And if they fail to realize that, then that's their problem. You don't have to be unkind. You don't have to be antagonistic. You just have to do you. I'm here tonight to tell you, girlfriends, listen, get yourselves together. Do what you got to do. Say thank you. And just, be a good person. Hey, girlfriends, if you haven't been told today, get a life.
Mother, sister, best friend or wife, the message is still the same. A girlfriend, get a life.